Do you know one of the easiest to remember and understand chess openings for white? I think it's London system. Hello ladies and gentlemen, FIDE Master Ivan Gerasimov is in touch with you, and let's analyze this interesting and popular opening. We played d4. The idea of London system is to develop the bishop on f4 and make a pawn wedge e3 and c3. And by the way, it's universal scheme, so we will play like this against different moves. For example, against d6, knight f6, g6, d5, we will play universal scheme. In this video we'll analyze d5 because it's the most popular answer for black. Bishop f4, knight f6, e3 and c3. So we have a pawn wedge. There are a few options for black. Of course, we cannot analyze all options, but I will give you the direction in London system. The strongest ideas how to get an advantage. For example, black play bishop e7. We play bishop d3, develop the knights, knight f3. Black tried to undermine our center and pawn on d4, but we control this pawn very reliable. Knight bd2, and we have a strong idea, a strong move, knight e5. This is a very strong square for our knight because the knight controls a lot of squares and attack the territory of our opponent. Bishop d7 maybe. We develop the queen, and with the helpness of this strong knight we concentrate our pieces on the king's side. Queen, bishop on f4, white squared bishop is striking. The second knight can help in the future. After knight e5 we play d e5, we take with the pawn and push the defender of king's side. Then queen h3, we are attacking h7 pawn, and we create the weaknesses in the position of our opponent. After h6 we can play maybe g4 and g5 and open the king side with checkmate ideas. For example, after g6 the dark squares now are weak on the king side of our opponent, and I will show you useful ideas. Knight f3, for example, knight g7, queen h6. So we will play by dark squares, by black squares. It's very hard to find a plan for our opponent. For example, they try to play on the queen side, and we have other strong idea, h4. We want to add the rook to attack. We want to open the h file, h5, h6, and so on. And by the way, I want to give you an exercise. You can think in this position and find a checkmate in few moves. I hope you found this idea. Of course, knight g5, we attack the pawn on h7, and after taking we capture on g5 and open h file, and we will checkmate on h7. After knight h5, rook h5, taking, and queen h7, we have a victory. Let's go back. So we analyzed this exchange on e5. For example, black play queen b6 and try to attack our queen side. We don't pay attention on this idea. We continue to prepare our attack on the king side. And by the way, the attack on the king side, of course, is more dangerous for our opponent than attack on the queen side. After queen b2, the next interesting exercise, you can think, please find an idea. We can take on d7, knight d7. We distract the defender and want to checkmate on h7. After queen a1, king e2, so we attack the queen, we attack the defender of the king side, and we want to checkmate on h7. Of course, we have winning position. So if our opponent plays g6 in this position, we can protect our pawn on b2. By the way, after taking on d4, we should take e4. We save our strong pawn chain with strong knight on e5, and we don't give to attack us on the queen side. Knight b4, for example, bishop b4. If we play c4, we will have such problems. We will have big problems after knight b4. That's why we should take e4. And what else? For example, black play rook d8 maybe. We will concentrate our pieces on the king side. Bishop g5, queen h4. So we see that we have more pieces on the king side, and it's very important idea in chess to have more pieces in some part of chessboard. And of course we should have an advantage. Queen g7, for example, we castle, and after that queen h6, knight f3, and so on. We have very strong position. Or maybe knight f3, knight d7, knight e5, and so on. So let's go back to the beginning. d4, d5, bishop f4. We create a pawn wedge, and the second option in this position, bishop d6. So we analyzed bishop e7, now we are analyzing bishop d6. I want to share the interesting idea. In this position we can take on d6, and after queen d6 we should play f4. The idea is to control the center. In chess we fight the center very often. It's very important thing in chess, because if we play knight f3, our opponent can develop knight d7 and play e5, and we will lose the center. But after f4 we block e5. We want to locate our knight on e5. We already saw this idea. After castling knight d2, we control white squares. Black try to undermine our center. We develop the bishop on d3, knight c6, for example, knight f3. After cd4 in this position, we should take with pawn cd4, because after knight d4 or e4 we will lose the pawn on f4. We play cd4, bishop d7, and we need to do preventive move a3. Control knight b4, because after castling here, knight b4, bishop b1, bishop b5, we will lose the white squares, and our position is quite bad. Maybe equal, but not so good. After a3 we control knight b4, and by the way, in such types of position black have bad white squared bishop. It's important thing too, but our pieces are playing well. For example, rook c8, we are castling a6. It's very hard to find a good plan for black. They will try maybe to play on the queen side as usual. I have such experience, my opponents played like this, but we put our knight on e5. You see that it's very strong knight. Black cannot take because that will be fork. For example, knight a5, they try to maybe play knight c4, b5 and so on. And we have very strong idea, rook f3. Our pawn on f4 helps our rook to maneuver on h3. b5, rook h3, and I offer you to solve the exercise. It's perfect exercise and perfect attack. I think you found bishop h7 and after knight h7, queen h5, that will be checkmate. Queen h8. So, dear friends, dear chess players, we analyzed the London system. I tried to give you the direction only. I hope you will play like this, you will use, and I wish you a success. Put a like, please, subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and see you in the next videos.